Occupy JKIA that was successfully done, and the go slow by the KAA staff. But if you've been online, I'm sure you've also seen the crazy propaganda and diversive stories that were being leaked. Mara Sijui Giuliani, Mara Sijui Hanifa Heist, all these are the attempts by the government bloggers to keep us from standing to our guns and wanting to know the truth. So I'm very excited to hear from everybody. I can see we have quite a few requests already. And let's see, who should we open up with? I think we should definitely start with the JKIA issue, Redemptor.
Okay, so I don't know if Mwai has any comments on JKIA, but the mic is yours as we give other people the mic.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Mwai. I'm an advocate, so I will limit the conversation for now. Maybe later we can talk about the court case to the issue of Adani. What I would like to emphasize, and my lessons will be very similar to what I was teaching last time, is that in Kenya, we have consumer protection laws that are among the best in the world. And when I say among the best in the world, it's because the Kenyan Constitution is among the best documents in the world. What happened is that when they were drafting the Kenyan Constitution, they were not really getting to consensus. So they kind of put everything together, and we ended up having a lot of so many good laws that can protect us. So as far as the Adani deal, I will try to explain to the audience how we can escape from it, because there are avenues that we can escape, because the government thinks that it can outmaneuver us and enter into shady contracts on our behalf, but there are means to escape that. So I will first of all hinge on the Kenyan Constitution, and I will go specifically to Article 46 of the Constitution. And there is a gentleman who does public teaching about the Constitution, and what he primarily teaches people is that the Kenyan Constitution is written in language that you can understand. So I will read 4 sentences of Article 46. It's very clear on what consumer protection laws are there. Then we can go deeper into what consumer protection laws provide as far as they are done. I'm sure you'll be able to catch the drift of where this is going. So Article 46 sub 1A says that consumers have a right to goods and services that are of reasonable quality. So you can underline services and reasonable quality. It also indicates that consumers have rights to receive necessary information to get full benefit of the goods and services. It also provides in sub C that consumers have a right to be protected regarding their health, safety, and economic interest. There we underline safety and economic interest. And what the Kenyan Constitution also provided was that in the event that a consumer's rights are breached, the consumer can get to be compensated. So what we are saying here is that the Kenyan Constitution on its own, even without first of all entering into the Consumer Protection Act, indicates on specific things that as a Kenyan you are entitled to get full benefit of your goods, to get full information. Already we know the Adani deal is not disclosing what is exactly happening. So we are somehow in the dark of who entered into the contract, what was it that was given in exchange. All these all these blood specifics that we do not know are specific breaches of the Constitution of Kenya, because we do not get full benefit of exactly what is happening. Now, in comes the Consumer Protection Act, and the Consumer Protection Act of Kenya is one of the most marvelous documents that emanated from our MPs basically being lazy. They went and copied the Consumer Protection Act of Canada, and here we have fallen into some luck, because Indian MPs also copied the Consumer Protection Act of Canada. So if you read the Indian Consumer Protection Act and you read our Consumer Protection Act, they are basically the same document. So what the Consumer Protection Act basically provides is that when a consumer faces an unfair practice, can get to decline that contract and they can get compensated. I have highlighted that the Constitution provides that if a consumer faces a loss or an injury, they can get to be compensated. Now, why this is important is because the Consumer Protection Act is drafted in very, very, very good basic English. that whereby we can just use dictionaries to explain and expound what it is that we think is unfair. It talks about unfair practices, deceptive practices, misleading practices, denying consumers information, failure to disclose the benefits, failure, mispresentation, exaggeration of the benefits, or consumer contracts that are so unfair, or you know that the consumer cannot actually be able to pay for the contract. That is under Section 13. So there, as far as the Adani deal is concerned, if we just put it under the microscope of the Consumer Protection Act, and as I've indicated, the Consumer Protection Act of Kenya is similar to that of India, it would fail drastically. And what our laws provide, which is also similar to what India has, is that when there is an unfair practice of any nature, the consumer can get to rescind that contract that is captured under Section 16. And not only can you rescind that contract, you can get to be paid damages for experiencing unfair practices of whatever nature. And unfair is very, 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 very broad. And I'll insist the very. It's very broad on what is unfair. So if you prove that there was an unfair practice that happened between us and JKIA, us and Adani, we can be able to decline that contract and get to be paid damages. And our laws provide that not only do we get paid damages, Section 16 sub 9 for our advocates, it provides that we can get to be paid punitive and exemplary damages. That is also emboldened by Section 84 of the Consumer Protection Act. And we are not experimenting on this particular law because it has been done previously by our courts. It has gone all the way to the Supreme Court. There are case laws in Kenya. And among the biggest companies in the world that was caught up in this is Coca-Cola, where they were told that they must disclose the goods that are in their beverages, which to date they have never done. So the day that you pick a bottle, just remember Court of Appeal case number 99 of 2018, Coca-Cola is in breach of consumer protection laws. They were told they must declare the ingredients that are there in Coca-Cola. So if Coca-Cola can be gotten, then Adani is much smaller than Coca-Cola. They need to adhere to our consumer protection laws. And this whole conversation that Adani, I saw today that they said that Kenyan laws are not applicable and they get to be paid damages, that is specifically against the Consumer Protection Act. So as far as the Adani conversation is concerned, I can say with authority that the consumer protection laws of this country do protect us as Kenyans against the Adani deal. And not only can we decline that contract, rescind basically, we can also seek damages and seek punitive damages against the individuals who entered into that contract. Section 16 sub 10 says that it will charge the individuals jointly and severally who are involved in that deal. So the Adani deal, as much as they're trying to do whatever it is that they're doing, it is against Kenyan law, and we can decline the contract and we have avenues. So let's keep on pushing the fight. And I know LSK has a fight, but as I've indicated, our laws, and I'm narrowing down on consumer protection, it does protect us. All we need to do is raise up a fight on this particular conversation. That shall be my submission for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mwai. And you know, the thing about what's happening is, do you guys feel like the government is constantly gaslighting us, putting us in fear, putting us in all kinds of confusion? We saw today the kind of serious damage. Paka, the transport CS had to show up at the airport, and he didn't say much. He was just trying to, cover up what was going on. And we also saw the government spokesperson saying the deal was only in its proposal stages, when Kenyans are seeing with their two eyes Adani management taking over. Redempta, I saw your hand was up.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find Nelson. I think he's in the house, but I can't see him. Joe Mwangi, I'm trying to ask. I would like to ask a question. I know it's not Adani, but it's also when people went to the streets in June 18th and 25th. One of the top listings was the unconstitutional offices of the first and second lady. When they did what they did, they said one of the reasons they have to keep allocating these funds is because they already have a contract. Please explain to the audience, explain to me as if I'm 10 years old, how something that is unconstitutional, like even if this deal had been signed, how do we go back to something that did not follow the laws of Kenya the Constitution of Kenya, that now we have to keep giving this money because they will sue us, the employees of those offices?
So thank you, Redemptor. So basically in law, when you enter into a contract, you can have something that is void ab initio, which is basically wrong from the beginning, and you can have a contract that is voidable. So voidable means that you have entered into the contract, but then later on you can decline the contract. So our officials, yes, they have entered into contracts and they have signed us away to India and Europe and all these other conglomerates. But the reality is that so long as that contract is put under a microscope, and not necessarily under a microscope, just basic assessment of was it a valid contract to begin with. So like, for example, the person who entered into the contract of the Eurobond, yes, it is okay, you entered into the contract with Eurobond, but the question is, the money did not come to Kenya. The money had not been sanctioned by parliament. So already that particular contract is already wrong because it did not follow the laws. So in comes now back to what I'm trying to emphasize on the Consumer Protection Act, that if we prove that that contract was entered into in under mysterious circumstances, or it was unfair, it was misleading, it denied us information, it denied us full benefit, it was exaggerated, it did not adhere to the Constitution, then we can seek, first of all, to decline that contract, then seek damages. And the way to go about it is, because if we just sit back, we will not benefit. We need to go on the frontal and attack, like expose what they're doing and put the contracts that we have signed with them into scrutiny. Did it adhere to Kenyan laws? You got a loan. Was it approved by parliament? So it did not adhere to parliamentary laws. Did the consumers get full benefit? They did not. So the trick to fighting this government is using the Constitution and using our Kenyan laws. So if a contract is void to begin with, or it was entered into in a situation whereby it did not adhere to our laws, we have avenues to decline those contracts, and we can also seek damages for that. I hope that kind of clarifies it.
That was an excellent submission. I see Nelson is in the house. Nelson Amenya is actually the hero of the moment, and definitely the whistleblowers. And as Redemptor said, when Nelson started talking about this, so many guys thought it was stories at Jabba, but shock on us. Shock on us. Nelson, welcome to the space. Thank you so much for joining us. What are your first submissions?
Thank you, Dr. Mombi and Redemptor, for inviting me to the space. So it's a sad time, for us as a country, because we are seeing leaders who we elected to represent us, representing their own stomachs, and trying to sell us at Beyajioni. And it's also very unfortunate that we are seeing how our forefathers, the chiefs, how they auctioned our land and our people to go and become slaves. And we are seeing it firsthand, how it happened. And this is exactly how it happened. And that's why we need to stop it. We need to shout at the top of our voices. We need to put our lives on the line. If you look at the history of Australia, the history of America, USA, North America, if you look at their history, the white settlers, when they went to those countries, when the convicts went to Australia, they had lords over them, the people who were governing them. And because all of them were white people, in America, they revolted against the governors who were governing them and making them slaves. And that's why in America, they had to go to Africa, they had to go to South America to get slaves, because their own people refused to be slaves. And they actually said that they'd rather die than become slaves of, those governors who were sent by the British Empire from the UK, from the United Kingdom. And also in Australia, the same thing happened. The convicts, and them, they were even convicts. They had done, they had stolen, I don't know what, in the UK, and then they were being sent to Australia to go and work in the farms in Australia. And the king had sent governors to go and govern them in Australia. So there was hierarchy. There was the governor, and then there was the people who were, convicts who were working, and they were like, for example, peasants, quote unquote. So in Africa, this system is the same thing that happened when the colonialists came. It was the colonialists, then the chiefs, then the peasants. When the colonialists left, it was now the chiefs and the peasants. And up to today, it's the same, the chiefs and the peasants. And now we have the political class and the peasants. So political class, the elite, the people with the money, and then the peasants. We need to abolish this hierarchy. And the reason why we have never been able to abolish it is our fear. And you remember that there was this saying that was it was being said a lot when we were protesting. If we lose our fear, when we lose our fear, they lose their power. In Australia, the convicts, they said they'd rather die than be slaves and peasants forever. In America, the white settlers refused to be slaves of the governors. And because of this, they had to sit down, agree, and go to Africa and get slaves who would become their peasants and, their slaves. And today, we are at this crossroads where we need to say no to become slaves and to being slaves. We have been slaves for so long. There is so many people in Kenya who cannot afford a meal. And then when you go out, you see someone has a brand new G-Wagon. I mean, it's insane. If you go to Nairobi, you will see some crazy cars that you don't even see in the West, like very expensive cars. And there are people who are sleeping hungry just next door there in Kibera. So this hierarchy needs to be abolished. And the only way to abolish it is by us standing up for ourselves, losing our fear, coming up with, exposés, exposing corruption. People are scared because obviously you will receive threats. It will not be easy, but you have to be ready to put your life on the line for us to reach where the Western world has reached, because it will not be easy. But there is a lot of hope by, going by all these things that have happened in the recent 3 months. So yeah, I'm very optimistic that we will change this in our generation. Dr. Mombi, that's my
I
submission.
completely agree with you, Nelson. I completely agree with you. And there's so much you've said because actually, I think everything that's happening, especially the JKIA heist, has really shown us how we are slaves in our own country and has had a lot of us these last 3 months questioning, what does it even mean to be Kenyan? Does being Kenyan mean I'm a citizen, or does being Kenyan mean I'm a slave? And I know there's a lot of different people who want to ask you different questions. But I know one, because today we were also going to talk about whistleblowing and whistleblowers. And we've seen the amount of, I don't know if this is something you're comfortable talking about, but if you're not, please just say so. We've seen a lot of threats on a lot of whistleblowers' lives, and now you've been receiving a lot of threats. Are you safe? And how can Kenyans keep our whistleblowers safe?
Well, Dr. Mumbi, to be honest with you, the way the world works, whistleblowers are seen as the enemy of the establishment. So you can never really be safe. I'm not in Kenya, but I don't think I am really safe even outside of Kenya. I will give an example of a whistleblower that I know who was working for Deutsche Bank in UAE. So when she was working for Deutsche Bank in UAE, you would think that because it's a German bank, it would not, it would protect the whistleblower. So the story goes like this. She found out that there was a company called Kaloti. So Kaloti is one of the biggest gold sellers in UAE and in the world. Kaloti was smuggling drugs in London, in New York, in UAE, and then they would launder that money through Deutsche Bank. So when she found out this racket, and she was senior management in UAE, in Dubai. So she flagged it, she sent it to their security risk and compliance. And, because she was very, she was always an innocent person and always following the law and following the policies of the company. So she reported to the risk and compliance, and then she sent the same report to Dubai police, the anti money laundering department in Dubai. So when she did this, after a few days, she was arrested. And when she was arrested, they said that she is the one who was money laundering. And she turned the case, and the case turned to be her doing money laundering. So she went back to her company. The company came to the police, and the Dubai police said that they're going to arrest her and jail her for money laundering in Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank said there's nothing they can do, and actually the charges are true. So they say the charges are true, and there is nothing they can do. So this is a legal issue. It only took intervention of some people because she was a UK citizen to help her. She got fired. She went back to the UK. Nothing was ever done to Kaloti, the company. And the reason why she actually reported is because there was a transaction where Kaloti withdrew, I think, $1 billion in Dubai. And she was saying she received videos of people carrying money in wheelbarrows from the bank to cars in Dubai. So basically, they launder money in London, drug money, what trafficking, every illegal stuff, illegal gold, all these things. But the establishment will not help you. So she said if she knew this, she would not have reported, to the security. She would not have reported it to the Dubai police, the anti-money laundering, those police people. So the whistleblowers are not people who are loved by the establishment. And sometimes it's even tricky if you go and report to the police, because these same police, because the establishment are the people who run these institutions, they might be the ones to ruin your life, to in Swahili we say hao ndio watakupeana. So you have to be very smart about it once you become a whistleblower. Dr. Mombi.
Thank you.
Yes, this is me asking you before we invite the next speaker. You watched this go, like by the time the newspapers were catching on this story, I'm sure people tried the story to get away. But then at one time it gets traction and we start seeing petitions. I think the first petition was done by the lawyer Wakili Njiro. And are you involved in any of this, or did now people take over? Were you left behind? I see all your posts, you're committed to this. Are you going to die on this hill? And I wish you safety. I'm saying die in quotes, in terms of this is a course that you started and you want to see to a logical conclusion. Are you included in the petitions? And do you want to be included, considering you put your life at risk for this?
Redemptor, actually, mine was only to, rally people to reject this Adani deal. So some of the petitions I'm involved, others I am not, and I'm happy if more people do them. Actually, one of the calls was for more people to go to court, people to, do just people to do their civic duty, people to go and protest, the cow to, strike. We need to have as many pressure points as possible. It doesn't have to be me, but people have to be awakened. One person cannot do it. So I don't necessarily need to be in those petitions, but as long as it serves the purpose, this is all, all that matters. And it's important for attention to be not only, in one person, so that they know even if they silence one person, it will still continue.
Asante sana, and like I tell everyone who fights for justice, thank you for your service. Polo Kimani.
You're welcome.
I don't know if he's hearing me. Polo Kimani, going once. Sanju, you'll be the next one. So Sanzu, take the mic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Uh, First of all, I want to thank Nelson for the brilliant job that he managed to do. This one will go down in history books as one of uh, the biggest efforts during this period. And I will want to quote a tweet that I made on July the 2nd, right after the the finance bill mandamano just came to a stop. And I said, the movement shall take many forms and not just protests. Some people might even turn into whistleblowers and leak documents that expose graft in government. Some may leak photos and information. There may be civil disobedience. Who knows? That is exactly 71 days ago. And what we saw yesterday was that prediction materializing. And I did not know it would actualize as soon as it did. But the good thing is, this is just the first amongst many other exposés that are gonna come, because I think right now uh, we have a lot of active citizens in different spheres, in different government offices, who also are are sympathetic and empathetic to the cause that the average Kenyan is championing. So personally, I'll want to talk about maybe three issues, but all of them are centered around around this deal that the government is pushing down our throats. I'll begin with state capture in itself is not a foreign concept. A lot of talk has gone around. Maybe uh, you might be familiar with what happened in South Africa with the Guptas. And I don't know, I'm not saying it's an Indian thing, but I've noticed there's quite a pattern here. But whatever happened in South Africa with the Guptas, to a point where this cartel had control of key government decisions, key government contracts. They were dictating on who was supposed to be getting this contracts. And that is where I feel we are heading as a country. In India, we might not be very familiar with Adani prior to this whole fiasco, but in India, he has been the key force that has been pushing Narendra Modi ever since he became prime minister. And even before that, they had established a relationship where it was symbiotic in nature. But of course, favors were exchanged. Modi used to travel during campaigns using the Adani planes. And, it's very easy to tell that this person has some personal benefit from the guy who's getting most of the lucrative government contracts. In India, they use Adani coal that they also use Adani energy in transmission. The houses, most of them are built with Adani cement. The airports, majority of them, I think it's over 60%, are run by the Adani group. Adani is the center of Modi's power. So how much power can that one man have, and how much influence can he have over that one single nation? And in case he does not have the capacity to do it anymore, at what risk is the country left under? These are the questions that we should start asking ourselves. And in times like this, these type of characters take advantage of regimes that are led by greedy politicians, just like ours at the moment, and they have found their right guy. I also want to touch on two things that are interconnected, and it's commercialized incompetence and manufactured consent. And if I can expound on this, we have been witnessing systemic failures that have not been addressed. Come one government, to the other. But to a certain degree, I tend to think it is intentional that these failures uh, remain as they are. And it's because they want to manufacture a certain type of consent where they will push uh, an urge and compel us to forcefully want to see an improvement. And then the government will say that they do not have capacity. And one of the main issues that people are talking about is the constant blackouts that we've been seeing. Now, it gives them a pretext to say, we want someone to come in and, fill this uh, spots that we cannot be able to handle. So that is where the public-private partnership comes into play. But it is very strategic in how they approach this manner. I saw that uh, proposal by Adani Energy, where they wanted to work on some power grids, but the date of this proposal is what really got me thinking. This was drafted in 2023, but a company of that nature does just doesn't come and gamble its way with contracts. It has to have established some sort of relationship to ensure that it is not just trying. They have some assurances, and I think these deals were not made now. These were cooked up prior to the elections. These are pre-election deals that were talked about in boardrooms, and then they had to create these special purpose vehicles if if the Kenya Kwanza government got into power. And that is why elections are so hotly contested, because there's so much at stake. And unfortunately, it is not for the public interest. If you look at this type of deals that we are signing, you wonder who sat down and decided that it makes sense to give these people a 10-year tax holiday and waive our right to improve our infrastructure for 30 years so that some parties can participate. I think these people have already been bribed, and that is why they are pushing this thing down our throats. And kama walikula pesa, as people are saying, inafaa warudishe, kwa sababu we cannot allow this to go on. We are becoming a state where we're almost heading to the direction of Nigeria, where you find government ministers, for instance, Diazani, Alison Madueke, who was the Minister of Petroleum in Nigeria, was found to have made so much money as a minister through these kickbacks in giving concessions to mining companies through deals that were very dodgy, were very sketchy, deals that were shrouded in mystery and secrecy. And that is exactly what we are experiencing. These public contracts that we are subjected to, we do not have any parts in when it comes to opinion and even directing how maybe public interest should be addressed in it. And it goes to and it even reflects to the SGR deal, which the president said they were gonna avail the contract, but to date, nobody has ever seen it. So we need to look at these things very deeply, because these problems are a manifestation of things that were planned in the past. So even in the next election cycles, a lot of people come to finance these leaders. And as it stands right now, we need to own these leaders, other than letting other people, especially foreigners, have control over them using money when it comes to election financing. So that is it. Once again, thank you, Nelson. We pray for your safety, and I hope that your actions can encourage similar minded patriots to stand up and volunteer information that might help us save this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that submission, and everything you said. I agree 100%. And everything you said. In fact, let me just play a clip for you guys about what Transport CS Davis Churchill had to say when the pressure got too much this evening.
taking the concession agreement to cabinet. And I want to assure you, cabinet is here to protect the interests of our Kenyans. Unajua, hiyo sawa, mtanisikiza na nitawasikiza pia, hakuna shida. I will listen to you and you listen to me. What we have agreed today, and why don't we be patient to each other? Kwa sababu sisi Secretary General wamesema tumekubaliana na maandishi tumekubaliana. So let me allow the SG to basically read through what we have agreed, how we are going to work together and build consensus on way forward. And I don't see any points of divergence if we are talking to each other.
Now, what I fear from the meeting that happened earlier today is that the Minister of Transport met the union. And I'm hoping that it was not a meeting where brown envelopes were being passed around or where promises were being made. Over to you, Redemptor.
Yeah, so when it comes to deals, all of us are agreeing. We are hearing all these kinds of stories that the reason they have the title deed is because it's a sale and not a lease. And we cannot be experts at everything. So we have CPM Mwangi, who comes highly recommended as an expert in PPP. Please take the mic and educate Kenyans, because this is a smart enough show.
Thank you for the platform. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, yeah, I won't say that exposed expert, but I'll say from my point of experience, is first, PPPs are not bad. The issue is usually how they are structured. And in this case, for a PIP like that, you'll realize even from the PPP Act, Adani is free as the concessionaire to say what he wants. Now, because from his end, he's into business. It's just like a bank. A bank who is lending a client to build does not care about anything but the fact that there will be returns for the bank and there is no risk for defaulting. So the concessionaire cares about the bankability by all costs. So that is where the first problem is. Now, when it is pushed over to this other side, which is the government, on behalf of us, who are the beneficiaries, they have to pass it through the 3 statutory tests, which are value for money, affordability, and the aspect of risk, how the risks are shared. But you see, in this aspect is whereby I usually find that the corruption is by design. The kickbacks come in, or people see the kind of stake that they're having in the negotiations. And personally, what I have a problem with this country is we are trying to fit in where we don't belong. If you see even how they're handling this housing issue, it's where it's one of the problems you're having. There's no way somebody can come from, let's say, from Bungoma, then comes and rents in Kileleshwa in a week. Even if you have that kind of money, you have to appreciate in a way that it is progressive. So you cannot say, even if it's a marketing point, even if it's a strength point of view, build a first-class infrastructure in a third world country. That cannot happen because it is not matching the level of development. If you see, like in the UK, they have had discussions of expanding, adding an additional runway since 2003. That thing came to be approved in 2018, and for them, they are using their own money. Now you see 15 years, and these are the guys we borrow aspect from. Not unlike here, something is conceptualized in 3 years, then all of a sudden, in one particular morning, that it inaenda kukua signed. So, and in this aspect, just like I was telling Nelson, courts are the best and easiest option to help us because we already have the frameworks. But with the behavior that you have seen by the executive to bulldoze over them, and I don't know what usually happens. For instance, the finance after 2023 was thrown out. People are still getting those deductions. There's still no clear picture on the way forward. So the only way out of this is civil action. Like what you even saw, the only language that was communicated was on June 25th. Because if you remember correctly, I think the previous 3 days, the amendments were read, which was the first test of the APROA. Then they were approved in a record 48 hours. So at that time, courts did have, I will say, the biting power of sorts. And one thing with this, when they get to the negotiations, you'll never know now the kind of final items that was signed. Because if you go by Musalia Mudavadi's word, who said as at 30th, nothing has been signed. I personally, I'm a person who likes proof, so I've not seen any evidence that anything has been signed. Although I hear a lot of rumors signing was done, because if you back off now, perhaps Adani can just request his monies for doing feasibility or such kind of things, which is something conducive. But if that thing is signed on 31st of October, according to the report, we will pay monies not less than 250 million US dollars as principles of termination of contract. That is usually a claim for loss of profit. So these are some of the issues we have to look at. And something else that also shocks me, for those who also read the Bible, David had an option to build a temple, but he alikanyagia, provided the materials, and left the work for Solomon. Kibaki conceived the SGR. He had the chance to leave it ikiwa imeanza, even if it's a kilometer. Akawachia Uhuru. So I don't understand why the politics that happens in this country, that you cannot leave it to be remembered that you're the part of the idea and leave other people to develop it. This is usually a serious issue. And you see, expressway has been done in the same manner. So on a concession of 27 years, so on a little bit more transparent mechanism. For instance, now we wake up in the morning, there is no expressway, nothing will happen. It's only that we'll go back to the jams we have for 3 hours or whatever. If we wake up in the morning, there is no JKIA, for instance, when the contractors started and let's say those guys have decided to go on a revolt, or they're trying to get back to the government by some sorts. And remember, these guys are here till 2054. A president can come in, let's say even in 2035, wakosane. Itakuwa ni vita, back and forth. And you find those kind of stranding zitakuwa zinakam in na zinasumbua sana. So just in summary, as I take a break, is the stakeholder communication and engagement was not done well at all. Because even if you're doing a privately initiated proposal, that is subject to a pre-qualification. So we don't know the other terms. Where are the other terms that were provided, even if it is 2 or 3, that made you choose this one? Or did you choose this one because you straightly knew that you're getting something out of it? And for people with such kind of a questionable track record, all this can be propaganda. Australia claims, India claims. I think I saw Bangladesh claiming. So all of these people can't be having different opinions for a reason. So I like to pause from there for the next speaker.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm reading now that the news just in is that aviation workers have suspended their strike after return to work formula with the government and KAA, and they're saying normal operations will resume. Your thoughts on this, Nelson?
Dr. Mombi, I think maybe they were trying to be tactical, because it's easy to to replace them, especially with NYS, because most of the KA workers are basically from NYS. So maybe this is why they had to take this tactical decision of going back to work. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating, because people are saying they've been paid, but I don't think that they have been paid at this juncture. And the government was quite desperate as well. I saw they were given veto power over the deal. I don't know how constitutional that is, or how legal that can be, or even how binding that will be. In any case, if they want to pass the agreement and they do not involve KAU, will they take them to court? How will they resolve that conflict? Because it's not constitutional for you to have veto power in the agreement as KAU, because the PPP Act does not envision, this kind of resolution. So for me, I feel like they were just trying to protect their jobs, which is the first reason why they went for the industrial strike. And I think Kenyans should continue with the agitation, because KAU alone cannot win this battle. For them, it's about their jobs, but for us, it's about our heritage. It's much more. It's about our sovereignty. It's about what I just spoke about, how we need to unchain ourselves from
Kenyans joining us. Of course, today we're talking about JKIA whistleblowers and petitioners, execute oversight. Redemptor, would you like to contribute or invite someone to speak?
Yeah, just bring someone else. I cannot see my mic request on my side. So kindly, we had given Paulo Kimani the mic. Then there's someone else I gave the mic, but they seem to have dropped. So if Paulo Kimani is not there, I might have to drop him as a speaker.
Okay, that's fine.
Kindly read some remarks, read some comments.
Okay, as I go into, I don't have the comments pulled up, so maybe I can invite someone else to speak.
Culture.
Yes. Let's invite Hannah. Hannah, go ahead. Or Walter.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear. Sorry, Wahana, you'll come in after.
So Culture first. Culture, the mic is yours.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Karibu.
perfect. I was just say asante sana. And nilikuwa nataka kusema, I think, okay, they went back to work, but Ruto's formula has always been the same. You subdue the protests, find out where the problems are, or find out the people instigating, get rid of them or bribe them, then bring the deal back. So what's going to happen to these workers is they are going to be very tactical. They're going to come in the morning, or they're slow hours at JKIA. So the slow hours, you just do the takeover. Maybe around 3 in the morning, have those Waindis come, have them sit in the office and everything. So when you're coming shift, you're like, what happened? It's like, hey, yeah, the takeover, it's already done. So we'll just hear it in the news. That's what he did with Gen Z protests. It's been seen time and time and time again. And again, the workers are short-sighted, very short-sighted, because when we were going to JKIA to protest, they never supported us. Okay? So now, because it's your job, you're ready now sasa to protest. Na mi ndio nasema kila saa.
We appear to have lost culture. Hannah, go ahead, please.
Yes. We'll hear. Can you hear me?
We had lost you, but you're back. Hannah, just wait 1 minute. We had lost you, but you're back,
Oh,
culture.
sorry.
Yeah, but you're back. We can hear you now.
Okay, somebody was calling me. Sorry. Yeah. So we'll just hear. Yeah, the Adani deal has gone through. These guys are already at the airport. And what I was saying is, these employees working at the airport, they're very short-sighted. They are thinking about their jobs instead of thinking about the long-term future of this country. Because I have a one-born son. What will I tell him in 30 years? That how come we gave up the airport? Like, akikuuliza utamwambia nini? What will you tell him? This is so ridiculous. So they should have supported us from the beginning, but I'm not blaming them. But they should not think just beyond their jobs. They should be thinking the future. And we need to still raise alarm over this deal, because there's so much. If you look at the terms of this deal, it's so problematic, because the title deed, this is a sale, because I can use the title deed. If I'm Adani, I can use that title deed, and then I can overinflate the price of the airport. I can say, well, KQ stock, you can just inflate it. It's $6 billion, I understand, but you can inflate it, and then it's 30. What you can say, it's $30 billion. Go get a loan for $30 billion. Then you leave the Kenyan taxpayers to pay for it. Or maybe in 30 years, you say, you know what, we want to extend the deal. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that this is Ruto's master plan is at work. He'll subdue, fire whoever is not going with the plan, and then just have these guys come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. And one day when we wake up, that airport is gone. And then the other thing is, how come we have a president? No wonder this president is killing people. You mean I can be the president and auction anything in Kenya? You mean I can sell the airport? I can sell the ports? I have leeway to central bank. I can transfer money how I want. No wonder he's killing people. We've given the president access to everything in Kenya. It's like, really, literally, the president is the owner of Kenya, because he can sell the airport and nobody's saying nothing, saying anything. It's only us, the citizens, who are raising an alarm over this corrupt, let me not say, like this corrupt, hungry person. So anyway, let's raise the alarm over it. And JKIA employees, please call in and tell us what we need to do. You guys need to be whistleblowers, telling us what we need to do, who we need to email, who we need to tag, where we need to go, what time we need to show up at the airport, because we don't want it to go. Nasi wa Hindi, and I'm not trying to be discriminatory, but anybody who's even worked for a Kenyan Indian, they won't even share the same cup with you. They treat us like nonsense in our own country. And I used to look at Mugabe like he's crazy, ama Idi Amin. And no wonder they chase them. You don't allow people to treat you like nonsense in your own country. I know they're Kenyan Indians, but you treat us like shit in our own country. Anybody who's worked for an Indian, I've worked for an Indian in Kenya. His tire bath and ingia huko angalia. Me, I refused. And from that on, I refused to go. And I used to have a cousin, that Mwindi was a top manager, treating you like nonsense. I'm like, listen, I'm not your employee. We work together. But you're treating me like I'm some handyman. Like, can you fix that? No, I'm not fixing anything. Let's go back to the office. And I don't want to go with you ever again on any errand. And I refused. So yes, they treat us like shit in our own country. Now you're going to bring an Indian from India. And Africans, we don't get respected anywhere. Anywhere. People who lived abroad know I've lived abroad. You don't get any respect. You know why? because your own government doesn't respect you. When you go to the Gulf and you're beaten up, you know what they tell you? Your government can't do anything. Tutakuchapa tu, tutakuua. You can't. Your embassy there is not saying, "Hey, can you bring back? We'll come and take care of our person, and we don't want them working there again, and we'll fly them back to Kenya on the next plane." Why can't you do that? No, mrudishe mtu home kwao. We don't get respected. We don't respect ourselves, and our leaders don't respect us. Anyway, let me not run too much. Thank you so much for the time.
Yes.
Asante sana.
Karibu, Hannah. I don't know, Dr. Mombi, I don't know if you are seeing the mic request because the senator has been trying to join us. Hannah, take the mic as we. Hannah, take the mic as we figure out. Let Hannah start speaking. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I was looking at some things that I was comparing Kenya to Paris because we have to have a comparison on what they are proposing and what other countries are doing. Actually, it is very ironic and very inadmissible what Adani is proposing in that contract. They want to use 1.84 billion. Seriously, even us Kenyans, we can chip in €1 1 shilling at a time, and we can arrive to this level. Why am I saying that? Paris created their own what do you call it? Oh God, runaways, and it started in 1974. When it started in 1974, it took 10 years. 10 years, and right now it's serving more than 57 million passengers per year. It has 34,000 aircrafts that come in, land in, go out. That one is per year. When you compare it to Kenya, it's not even giving the amount of numbers of aircraft that come in and out. But there's one thing they usually say. Right now, it's serving only 7 million people per year. And they wanted to maximize it to 20 million, which was supposed to be in 2030 vision. But what is Adani proposing is actually absurd because they're not going to construct another runway. What they are going to construct is use the same tarmac way and do the 1, 2, 3 construction, and then say that they have brought it to the standard level without competition. So you have to understand this is a very strategic point, very, very strategic point, because let me explain it to you in this way. With that CDG Paris airport, they managed to put a train going in it. That is called the RRB. It goes up to the point, and it brings a lot of workers. The number of workers that are in that place is 90,190 people working in that place. So add it to 700 companies that are working in that place without even counting the number of airlines that come in and out. It's a strategic place which can bring a lot of money in Kenya if we really open up our minds to this extent. For example, the land which is supposed to be next to it, to Kenyan first, what do you call the airport? We can make a second runaway or even third runaway, because in Paris you have CDG 1, CDG 2. Put it another one there. Extend it to make it bigger, so that one can when one is out of order, the other one can still go on. And if there is even a better way to use the Konza put another one in Konza, which can jumbo jet in the same place where you're using an international airline. So imagine the number of workers that can be put in that place. It can be a lot. For example, this summer, there was the Paris Olympic. The number of people that came in for the Paris Olympic was a lot. And it's not a joke. They even multiplied the number of tickets. The ticket normally cost €2. It was times 10 for just one go. You just go €10. So imagine this amount of money. It's a lot. People, you have to be thinking strategically.
I like that, Hannah.
This can bring money in Kenya, because if those what do you call it, the stadiums are working, imagine already preparing an international or African football, African games, it's already money coming in. So we cannot say that Kenya is lack of money. It's lack of ideas that is lacking in Kenya. Those who are in power are thinking about themselves, and which is very sad, because there are other things that can be done in that country that can bring a lot of money. It just needs a strategic person who can say, okay, now you have invested into this, you're asking money for this, please push it on. That's why even we should not just wait and leave all the things to be done by the member of parliament and so on. If you know very well there's a stadium that is supposed to be constructed in your area, please go.
And you need to learn.
Yes, please go. Make sure it is well done, because it will be a strategic point for you also. So I'll leave it to that for the moment, and I will continue listening as I participate afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hannah. This is the show that we call Smart Enough, where all guest speakers are smart Kenyans, and you guys never, ever, ever disappoint. Now, I've invited Senator Onyonka, who is with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator. Please, I don't know if you've been listening to the conversation. There's a lot that's happened in the last 24 hours. With the government saying many different things. What is your submission?
First of all, I want to say that thank you for giving me an opportunity to be on this space. Firstly, the person I would like to give a lot of credit is Nelson, because to be honest with you, I did not know about the Adani deal until after a friend called me and said that somebody's going to call you from somewhere. There's a very urgent matter. Please pay attention to what he's saying, because he says it looks like nobody's listening to him. So essentially, that's how I come into this story. Number two, I want to say that I've listened very carefully from the beginning until now, the discussion that has been going on. I want to say that, yes, it is true, there's a problem with the ruling class. Yes, it is true that the system, as I've always said, even when I make my public statements, I believe that the Kenyan system right now is so broken that you need to have a boomers meeting for people to sit down and we tell each other the truth, because the way one of the early speakers mentioned and discussed about our history with slavery and our history with bad governance and all those things. The truth, my truth right now, because I've spent quite a bit of time in the National Assembly and now I've come into the Senate. The truth is the ruling class doesn't actually give a damn about the issues which some of us have been talking about these issues. Some of us have been raising issues about the Gen Z. At one time, I actually predicted that they would come to the streets, which they did. And we have been systematically, I have been systematically studying and doing some comparative analysis on basically what has been going on. And it is shameless, it is sad. Your whole government basically runs like a cartel where individuals are rewarded to pass bad laws and to share the loot once the contracts have been done. I have frequently said that I don't think that we actually need anything more than 3.5 trillion shillings. The reason is very simple. Kibaki started with 700 billion. And in 10 years, We have borrowed beyond our management to manage the debt. We have spent the money on nonsensical stuff. Most of it has been stolen, and nobody cares. Nobody looks at it, and that is why I decided, at a personal level, for me, it's personal growth, because it took me a long time to understand exactly what is broken with our country. And I am saying, for those of you who keep talking about these issues, please continue. Civil disobedience is always fair. It may look that sometimes we lose, sometimes you win. The truth is, like the case of the Kawu employees, I don't think we should criticize them. This is a matter that they did for the first time. You know, they've been demonstrating up and down at the airport. They've been making noise about it. They've been engaging Nelson. They've engaged me. And we have always been talking with them, and they have been discussing. They've been giving us the data on what is going on and all those things. But you see what happened for the first time, flights were actually either canceled, delayed, and the system did not work for 2 days. Now, the reality for me is the point has been made. Fortunately, because I had asked a question at the Senate about the minister coming to explain about Adani, apparently he is coming tomorrow. We will ask the same questions that you're asking. I am so happy that the team, the Law Society of Kenya and Kenya Human Rights Commission, having gone to court and they got those orders. I know that the judiciary is being twisted and sometimes blackmailed, but we are going to still get some few good men and women who are going to fight this fight. Because to me, if we do not change the trajectory of our country, where we are today, where we are beginning to abuse human rights, where corruption is normalized, where when you challenge what the government is doing, you are seen to be a crackhead, somebody who doesn't even understand what you're doing. And yet the reality is, if you walk across the house where you live and you're in the middle class, everybody is struggling. Nairobi is struggling. All our counties are struggling. Some and most of the money is being stolen. And imagine it's only 15% of what should be going down there. If you look at the national government, it's the same thing. And that is why I keep saying, if something is not done to create deterrence, to encourage good governance, to encourage meritocracy, make sure that we spend public money with honesty, make sure that people with integrity and high credibility are given positions of public office, then for me, we don't have a country. I'm willing to say I'm ready to give up. But my only hope is that in a way, Kenya has changed. In a way, people are talking about the airport. In a way, people have talked about the issues that the Gen Zs have been talking about. In a way, people are talking about this thing they are calling university funding, which doesn't even have a head or a tail, where you are punishing children from poor families who are normally bright and clever. And we are creating a system whereby you are beginning to create 10,000 multimillionaires and billionaires, and 48 million, 0.5 something are people who are going to keep walking in the streets wondering why the gods were against them. So I want to say that even with all the issues that are happening, even with the disappointment, even us being, because I'm called one of the whistleblowers, being in danger, and severally, I can tell you, I've been asked by my own mother, who's alive and she's about 84, are you feeling safe? Don't you think you are exposing yourself? And I say, but if what I'm talking about has nothing to do with me being hateful or vindictive or subversive to the government, and yet all I'm doing is saying, this is wrong, can you please fix it? Then I think if there's a price to be paid, so be it. The reality is, sometimes some people have to do some things. Mahatma Gandhi, when he started the movement in India, who knew who he was? Look at Martin Luther King, look at Karl Marx. I mean, people have stood up for issues historically to try and change humanity. And I believe that if that is the only thing we can do, then for me, that would be a good team that I would want to be in.
Wow, thank you for your patience. We had not seen you. I was looking for you in the wrong place. Now, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Before the election, we had a case where NCPB was sued. Someone sold air. Are we ever going to see the end? And now that you hear this return to work formula, you've had one of your leaders from your county saying that this
Yes.
was a preliminary. As a legislator, where you know oversight failed and you had to turn into a whistleblower, do we have
Yes.
a chance? Do we have a chance, even in this deal, of exposing if this contract was truly signed, how much was involved? I know there's a lot of documents that are out there. As legislators, as the parliament, as the Senate, what's the way forward?
That's a very good question, and I'll be very honest with you. There are a few senators who have started feeling the way most of you and the way I feel, because they ask me, initially when this matter came up, many of them thought I was representing another company that was fighting with Adani, so that I put pressure on Adani for them to bribe me so that then I can shut up and move on. But I have been discussing corruption in Kenya for a long time. I've discussed our budgeting system, which is corrupt. I have discussed the risk where the control of budget, the Auditor General. I have discussed how we don't fund those oversight institutions to try and make sure that the control and management of state resources is above board. All these systems are deliberately broken, deliberately not financed. The IFMI system, it was only about 2 months ago when it finally came into the hands of the government. Previously, IFMI was being managed by private individuals and private companies. The reason was that that's how they were getting their commissions. And the truth, then you ask yourself, if your complete financial platform, which runs all your financials in government, private sector, public sector, which deals with HR issues, which deals with pensions, is being managed and run by other people, how many people do you think they added names onto the system so that these people can be receiving money from Exchequer? That is why I say we don't even have the data, because the data firewall that was supposed to take care of the data that makes sure that when you budget and when you pay salaries, how many students we have, who gets bursaries and who does, everything is broken into. So you can manipulate, and this is what has been done in our system. The system can be manipulated, but I can tell you that if you continue putting on this pressure to your members of parliament, even when there could be a lost cause, if you continue putting pressure onto your senators, the reality, I believe, and the pressure from the public is going to make us as leadership, even when we have completely failed our people, to begin to take those correct positions, which will save the country. The feeling I have is that we have been abetting, colluding, and been part and parcel of this breakdown and this cartelish and this state captivity, which we've been engaged in, and yet we looked at it as if it was a ping pong game we were playing, and if you make the money, fine. If you don't, too bad for you, because you are stupid. That's why you are not able to get the money. And sometimes even the voters tell you, what did you get from where you've been? We know you are a thief. Why did you steal? The whole scenario of our country, from even the lower levels of education to the colleges to universities, something is completely broken. We have to start creating a nation. We are not creating a nation. We are creating individuals who are participating in events within a capitalistic system, where many of them may not even understand the rules that in capitalistic systems, the winner takes it all, where our elections are interfered with to make sure that the team that has received more money or that is going to put more money on the table is the one that wins. And as a result of that, all your natural resources, whether it is oil, whether it is diamonds, whether it is gold, whether it is your minerals, everything is under total secrecy. And yet Kenyans, the Constitution wants us to know those things, so that then they can properly be utilized with openness and transparency, so that these resources can help our people get out of poverty, so that we can manage ourselves better. We are not doing that. And my argument is, it is deliberate.
Thank you very much, Senator. I can see CPM had his hand up. Maybe it's a question. I'll ask you one last one, so that when CPM speaks, maybe he's also asking a question. The fire in the belly has been consistently not from just June. Everyone look forward to hearing you challenge, speak truth to power. And then you are with your Secretary General, who calmed down when the government of national unit happened. You've been accused of being popularist, yet your clips go viral. What is driving you? Is this what you want to be your legacy as a leader after all these years?
Oh my God. That's an incredible question. Let me try to be calm about it. In life, there are positions that human beings need to consider as they grow and as they mature. My conviction right now is that I deliberately have matured into my politics because I started asking myself those very deep questions about, yes, I have been in Parliament and now in the Senate for the last 20-something years. Yes, in my performance in terms of the constituencies that I was running and the work I've done, I've reasonably tried to be above average. And I kept asking myself, what have you observed over these 20 years? And what is the conclusion you've arrived at? What are the things that you've seen that you know? And I can tell the team here, there is nothing I don't know on how money is stolen from the national government by everybody in that system, whether it's the county government, whether it is the money that the governor takes, the senator takes, the members of the county assembly take, how the bribing is done between when the governor is going to be impeached or not, the dysfunctionality of that system. I mean, including the fact that somebody comes and you're impeaching them, then he's impeached at the Senate, and then you take him back to court. Can you imagine if you had a magistrate who was kicked out of office and was taken to the Judiciary Service Commission and is kicked out, and then he comes to the Senate to ask the Senate to return him or her back to the judiciary? These are the contradictions in our laws. This can be fixed. But in my reality is, I then began to see the issues that are affecting a country as being man-made, as not being accidents, as being deliberate. And I said, I think the best thing I can do is let me talk about these things. Let me just raise them, because sometimes you may not reach everybody, but some people may begin to say, is that guy talking sense or is he just politicking? And that is why my feeling right now and my legacy, if I was to have any, because I'm so humble about that, is that I am so, so proud. Because right now, when I sit with my kids, they keep telling me, Dad, you know, now even our teachers respect us. They say that you are talking the truth to power. You know, that to me is more important than being rich or even having anything that makes me fly like a helicopter or anything. I'm extremely happy that even the ability that Kenyans are willing to have this discussion, that the issues we've been raising yourselves and everybody, that we are actually engaged, and legitimately so. Nobody no longer thinks we are being populist. I wouldn't even want to run for office if I had an option like that. I wouldn't. I'm just trying to say, you guys have such a wonderful country. The opportunities are there. At one time, Kenya was really blooming, where people feel like they're happy about their country. Education was doing excellent. You had job opportunities taking place. Kenyans were flying out on their own and getting higher education opportunities and getting jobs abroad. And then right now, listen and look at the things we are dealing with. We have a country that is becoming completely dysfunctional. Nobody wants to observe the law. Then you say you want to bring investors because you are creating a good environment and a conducive environment to invest. How can people come and invest when they know that you are beginning to have dictatorial tendencies, that you don't have a social welfare system, that your HR issues are everywhere? There are strikes that are taking place. There's an issue of salaries. There's an issue of exchequer releases. That should worry anybody, everybody who's careful. And to me, that is why if you look at the rating institutions like Moody's and these big companies in the US, Kenya right now, we're at C. I think in the next 1 month, we're going to be at D. Nobody would want to give us money. We may not be able to renegotiate our debts. We are then, of course, most probably going to start printing money. And then as a result, inflation is going to go up to 300%. I mean, we didn't have to get there. That is my point. We don't have to go that route. Kenya can do better. We can plan our affairs better. We can live within our means. Leadership can be responsible. People who are well-educated or exposed and with wisdom can be elected, and they serve their public because that's their job, and not to become brokers and tenderpreneurs, and they're busy buying helicopters and telling everybody else how they're the cleverest in the world. There's nothing like that.
Wow, Senator, you have been in parliament and you don't have an helicopter. And I think that is something to celebrate. CPN, your hand has been up. You're dying to ask maybe a question. I'm giving you 1 minute because you had already made your submissions.
Yeah, I'll go straight forward to questions submitting to the senator.
Yes.
I have 3 questions. Then I'll type the rest. Is it the current transport minister coming in tomorrow?
Yes, it is him. Yes.
Okay. Then let me ask questions for you. Then I'll type his later. First is
okay.
This agreement is scheduled for, according to the report, for 31st of October. And there are a lot of rumors around that they have signed or planning to sign before then. So I'd like to know how true that is. Then the second thing is, who will approve it? Is it the cabinet or the parliament? Because both of them have authority, but they usually come in at different times. Then the third question is, is Adani really here only for the airport? Because there are rumors coming in about energy, and also given that they have brothers and sisters in the health sector, they'll also be joining them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I will start with the last one that you've raised. There are certain individuals who've been part of the brokerage arrangement between Adani and the Kenyan government, and they are also heavy and big in the medical industry. The argument and the issue that has been brought is that SHIF was being brought deliberately, so that when these individuals begin to handle monies which are going to be paid by under the same system like NHIF, then they would be able to control and manage the system within that health sector. The second issue that I wanted to raise back to you is that the approval is supposed to be coming to Parliament. We discussed it. If you look, there's a document I posted, I think on my X, where I showed that in 2017, when the Transport Committee was chaired by Mr. Kosing, who is still in Parliament, there was this deal didn't start now. There was an arrangement of some people to try and get a PPP program so that then they could give an okay for whoever that was going to lease or buy the airport to be given that job. And people from the intelligence sector, NSIS, the military intelligence, the military, the national, everybody, not the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, because the people who were there then were really, truly professional, or later gotten rid of, went and made presentations and said, this is a national asset, which is the backbone of our security. The people that you have at the airport are the ones who handle our satellite and the Nini, which allows airplanes to land and to leave. You cannot lease it or give it away. This has to be managed by the national government because of national security concerns. That was shelved. The report is there. How did then somebody change and come up and bring that issue? I think that is a question I would like to ask him. Of course, the question of the dates, if the agreement has been signed, and I hope, I do believe actually, that since when you're called into the committee of the Senate or at the chamber, that chamber adopts a chamber of a high court judge. And I expect that everything that he will say, and if possible, I'm actually going to request that we give him, for him to be sworn in, so that he can be held liable if he lies over the matter, because this is a matter that is very weighty to everybody in this country. As everybody has said, this is our bequeathment from our grandparents and the people who started this country, there are certain things that are not for sale. And for me, I believe that it is something we can die for and something we should ask for. And finally, I remember Nelson discussing the issue of whistleblowing. I also want to tell all of you that it is true. I worry about my life. I'm more careful what I do, where I go, who talks to me, because sometimes people look at me in a very funny way, as if I'm doing something that is really crazy. But at the same time, I have always tried to engage whoever that gets upset with me by telling them, look, I am not asking you that you don't do the deal you're doing. Just do it within the law. Make sure you have proper procurement. Let us have 6, 7 different countries. Let us take the international best practice. Look at what has happened to Rwanda. Look at what has happened to Ethiopia. Rwanda is going to receive 40 aeroplanes by the Qataris, and they've been given $2 billion, which is a soft loan, which they'll pay over a period of 40 years. And yet, what are we doing? Did we value our airport structure? Somebody told me the valuation is 1 trillion shillings. How do you get somebody to promise you 136 billion to build a new airport, and then you take an asset which is 1 trillion and you give it to him and tell him he can do whatever he wants with it for the next 30 years? And then after he has finished raping and excuse me for using that term, and plundering that asset, then he owns 20% of equity of that asset eternally.
Wow, the last question.
For
the
me,
last question, sorry, there was
yes.
the contract the rumors about the contract being signed on 31st of October.
Yes, those are the questions that we are going to ask. Every single issue that has been brought out about the Adani matter, the issue of the people who own those kiosks, who own the duty-free shops, what's going to happen to them? The workers who are working at the airport, who is going to handle the VIP lounges? I mean, there's so much that is who's going to be the VIP lounges is where state officers and government officers are received from other countries. How do you allow another country to come and run your VIP wing at the airport? I mean, all these things are so sensitive and so important. And Kenyans have been sending me some of the questions. So I believe that tomorrow is going to be a very good day to try and have clarity, because there have been 3, 4 different versions of the same story.
And the last question
Thank you so much.
The last question I'll ask is based on what the CS for transport has said and what the women rep for Nairobi has said about infrastructure. Then they have said other countries.
Yes.
Are we at a place as a nation where development is being put over and above our ability even to survive in this country? Are we there? Should we compete with India and I don't know which other country at this point?
There's a lady who spoke with you earlier. She tried to make a very interesting point. I nearly missed her, but let me use her case so that I can make the point. We are not saying we don't want to have a new airport. That is a simplistic, if not stupid way of trying to explain the issues we are raising, and basically childish ways, a narcissistic way of the way you throw away everything thinking everybody's a fool. What we are saying, give us the details, the data and the information on how you're doing it, because we are stakeholders. There should have been public hearings. We should have had everybody who has an interest at that airport. That is why in other countries like Britain, for them to have one runway, basically it took them 15 years to negotiate that transaction and do it. This is a question that even as a republic, we need to be sitting down and asking ourselves, why is it possible that we are looking for a company from India to come and do a runway in Nairobi for us, as if there are no Kenyans who know how runways are done and what can be done about it? Why is it that when you are told that the airport of Nairobi airport is going to be refurbished, that is what everybody who has been having an opportunity to work there has done, refurbished. But the only thing they do is spend a quarter of the money and eat and steal the rest of it. That's why the airport has been generated that way. So if you want us, friend, yes, I had one of our friends raise the issue about these guys in South Africa and the Guptas. I mean, if you look at the trend, you finished from there, they went to the power sector. Engagement, all these people have. And like believed to be the case, this is a deal most probably which was discussed.
Have our own, we can build our own airport when we have brilliant architects, brilliant minds in Kenya. So I definitely feel we're dealing with a very narcissistic government. And, you know, the question, what you in Kenya, that such a thing could be happening, because we know they've played both parties.
Keep making that necessary noise.
Thank you so much, Senator Nelson. I can see you have you have the mic.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Thank you, Dr. Mumbi. I just wanted to add on what he said. So about these Indians, I have been breaking a story about Nairobi West Hospital and Jayesh Saini. Actually, Jayesh Saini and first of all, Jayesh Saini has got our healthcare system under his healthcare institutions. So all the police, all the teachers, their insurance, and this is a malpractice. I was being told by some health practitioners, because you cannot be the insurance provider and also be the one to provide the healthcare. But this is exactly what Jayesh Saini and his family is doing. So his dad owns Nairobi West Hospital. His dad is called Dr. Umesh. And so Nairobi West Hospital is the one where teachers and police officers go and get treated. But Jayesh has his own show. So he has Bliss Healthcare, Life Care Hospitals, which are they are under a lot of controversy, especially in Eldoret. So around the country, they have different healthcare facilities with different names, and some teachers and police officers go to these facilities. If you do not go to that facility, you cannot be admitted for more than 3 days in these facilities of Jayesh and his family. It's even more sad that I learned that, so for them to reduce the cost of hiring radiologists, they send the CT scans to India, and then they get interpreted, then they're sent back to Kenya. So this is obviously data breach. In our data protection laws, you cannot send patient data outside of Kenya. So basically, they are breaking the law by doing this. They are also outsourcing the people who, how do you say it? The people who normally would accept the insurance claims or reject them, approve or reject. So they outsource this to Indian companies in India. So basically, you're in Kenya, you're a patient, you're in a hospital, you're waiting for approval, and the approval will have to, or the rejection will have to come from India. So there are so many things they're doing. They have employed so many Indians from India. So all these Indians that they employ from India, first of all, their salaries go back to India. So there is a lot of capital freight, capital is going back to India rather than staying in the country. If they receive like 2 to 4 billion shillings from the government, probably like 10% of that money goes back to India. So there's a lot of capital freight from Kenya through these dubious deals that the government officials are making. And my point that I wanted to make is, so Jayesh is one of those Indians that they are raping our country, they are raping our economy. And someone else is Adil Kawaja. So Adil Kawaja is the chairman of Safaricom. Adil Kawaja has been Ruto's financial advisor for a long time. They're close. I've been told that they are part of the Adani deal, part of this JKIA takeover, together with Jayesh Saini. Jayesh Saini and Adil Kawaja took Ruto to Modi. And you all know the history of Modi and Adani. And also there is the chairman of KNH. So the chairman of KNH is called Dr. Samir Muravesh. The chairman of KNH is a very good friend of Aaron Cheriot. He also runs a few healthcare clinics. One is called Libya in Nyali. He's actually building a brand new healthcare facility in Nyali. So basically he's trying to speculate on obviously the business that is about to come, for them in shift business. And since he is in this health industry, they're obviously going to benefit from it. I was also being informed that they have pharmaceutical companies that do business with KEMSA. You can see the level of state capture. And when you see people like Kimani Chungwa talking about state capture, this is all bullshit. There is nothing that they're saying about state capture. It's the same thing that Ruto used to say. He will not send security agencies after government critiques. The same thing they're trying to do to me. So these people are not honest. They are not people of integrity, and treat everything they say as total lies until their actions prove it wrong. Otherwise, their words, they're not genuine. They're just politicking and being politically correct. But what they're doing behind the scenes is exactly the opposite of what they say. Thank you, Dr. Mombi.
Thank you so much. We are so strict with time. We have 9 minutes to go. I see so many people have requested the mic today. We weren't able to get to everybody. Redemptor, is there anyone specifically you wanted to give the mic to before we ask our speakers to close out?
Yes, we had invited I do not see him. Some of the lawyers who are supposed to grace this show are not available today, but I think we've gotten somewhere in this conversation. For me, it's the intergenerational working relationship where I saw the senator writing a letter with the in 2 minutes, Joe Mwai, because you're working very hard. You have a petition on consumer protection, just like Nelson ameamua leo anachoma shule na certificate. I celebrate your courage. Joe Mwai, you have one case that is protecting women from products that are not safe. I'm giving you exactly 2 minutes to show us how you are oversighting, because all the other institutions, if these products had been inspected by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, you would not be having these lawsuits. So kindly present to us that matter in less than 3 minutes. Joe Mwai, ama amelala.
Oh, hi, Redemptor. My machine was interfering, so I didn't hear you, but I think I got the last bit of I present. So I think we're supposed to be talking about the case of sanitary products, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, and make it very quick so that we can appeal to people who want to join you in that case.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in very specific terms, all the sanitary products that we are being sold in Kenya are not made of cotton. Go to your local supermarket, go to your local shop, look at whatever is there in the market. None of it is made of cotton. It is a scam that our ladies and our children are being sold to. So tampons, diapers, pads, None of them is made of cotton. So I filed a case against the two biggest manufacturers of sanitary pads and diapers in the world, Procter & Gamble and Kimberly & Clark. Procter & Gamble are the manufacturers of Always and Pampers. Kimberly & Clark are the manufacturers of Huggies and Cortex. So if you go look at the products of what it is that we are being sold to as sanitary products in Kenya, none of it is made of cotton. Just go, ladies, go to your shelf, go to your wardrobe, pick whatever product that you're using, look at what it is made of. It is made of more than 20 different synthetics, or go to their website and look at the products that they're selling you. So this is back to the issue of consumer protection, whereby they've misled our ladies that they're selling to us cotton, but it is not made of cotton. Imagine over 20 different synthetics that you cannot even pronounce. And it is there. And when they're told to display what is in their products, they primarily display that it is wood pulp or cellulose. But none of those products is cotton. So there is a bigger picture and a bigger scam to this narrative and what meets the eye. The two companies have been held culpable in Canada and in different states in the United States of deforesting and cutting down millions of acres of forest because they just find a forest cut down, use whatever it is that they want to use, then the rest they mix with chemicals and plastics and sell to us and advertise. If you go to the website of Huggies Kenya, you look at New Baby, it's written very clearly, 100% made of cotton. It is not made of cotton. It is a lie. If you go to your YouTube and check advertisements for Always, it will tell you cotton, cottony, use specific words that hint towards cotton, but none of it is made of cotton. So here's the kicker in this conversation, which probably Senator can pick it up. Over 31 counties in Kenya, of the 47 that we have, can grow cotton individually. So which means that if we were to dedicate our resources to growing cotton, Kenya has enough resources to grow our own cotton and be able to ship to the rest of the world. We have enough space, we have the environment is befitting for all of us. But what they do is that in exchange, they now sell us subsidized, and we become a dumping site for their less quality products. So the case number for record purposes is case number E430 of 2024. It's a constitutional and human rights petition. It is before Justice Chacha Mwita. It is coming up on 17th of September. So anybody who'd be willing to join this conversation, you are highly welcome. The problem is that they are colonizing us in every single aspect. Like I've mentioned earlier, Coca-Cola does not obey laws, and so also do these other companies. They do not obey laws, and we can see the sensitivity of the product that we are talking about. Can you imagine that Kenya, 60 years of independence, we cannot be able to cater for our own sanitary products? But it's not that we don't have the land, we don't have the resources, but it's geared towards that we cannot be able to have our own resources. What is the cost of a ginnery? What is the cost of a machine that manufactures diapers? What is the basic cost of that machine? If you go to basically even Alibaba, you'll find that the machine is cost less than 5 million Kenya shillings. So poverty is engineered in every single aspect of our lives. And if you find that the companies who are selling us these products, because the conversation is even deeper, you'll find that the companies are BlackRock, Vanguard, the usual culprits who tend to own this world. And the same culprits who you'll find that they own weaponry that is being used in Gaza. It's the same companies that you'll find that they are stealing minerals in the Congo. It's a cabal of the same people. So the people who are controlling our government, the people who bribe our MPs, the people who bribe our senators and control everything that is going. When you see Meg Whitman talking about seeds, talking about we adhere that we pay our loans and all this, it is all orchestrated. None of it is coming from nowhere. It is something that is planned and it is strategic. Okay.
Yeah,
so, hello.
Yeah, you need to wrap up.
Yes. Okay. So the conversation here is that, ladies, whatever sanitary products that we are using, none of it is made of cotton, and it is a lie, and all of us are being lied to. And whoever would like to join in this fight, we come together on 17th of next week on Wednesday before court, and we try to argue out. that we need to be decolonized even on these basic commodities that we need to use. Thank you.
And thank you for caring for the women of this country. We like it when lawsuits like this come from our men, because it means they have not abdicated their role to protect their women. Nelson, I would like you to give your final submissions. I think the senator has left. And then Dr. Mombi, we need to wrap this up.
Thank you, guys. My final submission is actually very brief, that we need to continue to agitate for change, and we need to continue to talk about these things. Don't think that by talking about them online, we're just online wankers. No, this is a big part of the change that we want to see. And actually talking about these things online gives them an international perspective and international exposure rather than just keeping quiet. So let's talk about these issues. Let's whine. It's working, and we have seen it work. And well, of course, we have to think about going to the streets at some point, because that's the ultimate goal. Once the streets call, well, we will go. But until that time, let's keep the pressure online. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mombi.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for joining us this evening and for sharing just all the wonderful information you had to share. Thanks to everyone who contributed. Unfortunately, we were not able to request, to answer a lot of your mic requests, but we hope you'll join us next week, and hope we'll have more of an opportunity to allow other smart Kenyans to give their contributions. As always, we appreciate, love each and every one of you. Kenya is our home. We don't have another home. And if we don't speak up, then who will? Until next time, stay safe, family.
Asanteni, wajinga waliisha Kenya. Fight for your nation. You have the right to be here.
There's a new force of nature at hand, stirring all over the world. They are the young people whom, frankly, we have failed, who are angry, who are organized, who are capable of making a difference. They are a moral army. And the most important thing that we can do for them is to get the hell out of their way.
The youth of today, like Nelson Mandela, who is now hailed as an icon of peace, must be ready to be called terrorists. We must be ready to be called criminals. We must be ready to be jailed for crimes we did not commit. We must be ready to be character assassinated like Ida Mtwana, Robert Sobukwe, Unhopo Sisiro, Steve Biko, Winnie Mandela, and Julius Malema.
We demand that the people who have been arrested and abducted be released unconditionally as a sign of goodwill. We demand that there be heads rolling in the police department because there are people who gave those orders. We demand as young people that you respect our lives, that you stop killing us. One life was one too many. There are people who will never walk again, and that's why we walk on the streets. And we demand that you follow this constitution, because all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance to this constitution. And remember that while you can kill a revolutionary, you cannot kill the revolution.